So, if you haven't been to a closing session before, even if you attended and left early or something, what I try to do is make it interactive. And I'll tell you up front, I only made 3 slides. So, if you guys give me feedback, then we'll have a productive session. If you don't, then we have 3 slides. But let me go through the PowerPoint real quick. This is an exciting time for the project. One, you may not know, Janice has been, and I have been working on, and Angelo's been doing the grunt work, have been working on a kind of a redesign for the front page of the website, and I'll show you that here in a second after the 3 slides. Another big issue right now is WinPCAP. WinPCAP does not work on Windows 10, or at least not reliably. This is a big deal. And it's a big deal that we're going to have to fix. Fortunately, we do have people who are working on the problem. Unfortunately, they're working on it independently. So what I'll try to do soon is maybe kind of get that stuff wrangled and see where we can get on that. And that is one of the things that we talked about this week, the developer room. This is one of the benefits of having this yearly conference. We can get together and talk about and fix these problems. The next thing, which is the thing everybody's asking about, is 2.0. When's it going to come out? What does it look like? Things like that. If you don't know what it looks like, then you haven't downloaded the dev release, and you should do that. So, on to the second slide. When it became apparent that we were going to have to rewrite the UI, just to bring it up to the same level for all platforms and reap other benefits from doing this, I had a plan. The plan was for the new interface to spring forth fully formed from the forehead of Zeus. Perfect. Plan A didn't work, so I had to go to Plan B. Plan B was read code and write code and test code. That's a lot harder than pulling it from the forehead of Zeus. But it's something you have to do. It's something you have to do on any sort of software project. So, so I've done that. I added the last thing tweet. And what I've been doing is, as I get the new code written, I want it out there, and I want people using it and testing it. And I want feedback, so I've been kind of slipping messages out and screenshots out, and trying to get people at least interested, if not excited. That would be the optimal thing, I think. But so what has this produced? We have what I think is a nice UI. I've gotten lots of good feedback, and this week we found a lot of bugs, and fortunately been able to fix quite a few of them. But we have this thing that is slowly shaping up and slowly looking like something like Wireshark 2.0. And maybe in a couple of months we can start making alpha releases. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I was going to ask you guys right now. So what I'm going to do next is kind of take you on a really quick tour of the interface. This is not an intro to Wireshark session, which is going to take an hour and a half. It's just a quick overview of the new UI. How many people have not even seen the new UI, have not played with it at all? Shame on you. No, if you want to see the new interface, like I said, you can go to the download page of the website, you can go to the development release section and download a development release. This is what the new UI looks like on a low resolution projector. Let's try resizing it. So you have, up top you have your recent files, and down here you have spark lines for each of your interfaces that you can double click on and capture on, and you have these links down here you can put them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but you also have, stuff that should look familiar. You have your start capture button, display filter, text box, other things like that. Let's go ahead and open a capture. So what happened on the right there? Watch this. This is something I'm playing with. I'm doing something really stupid and dangerous right now. I'm running on code that I just compiled 10 minutes ago. This is an overlay on the scroll bar that It's running macOS, so it's going to go away unless I keep fiddling with it. But what it's showing are all the coloring rules. Per raster line in the scroll bar, you have an average of the coloring rules for each packet in the packets. So what you can do is, I'm at the top of this capture. Well, if I scroll down, if I go down here, actually, I can make it pop up. I have a lot of stuff going on down there, and I can really easily jump there. And it's really obvious there's stuff going on down there. So hopefully that's helpful. This is actually based on a proposed feature sent in 2001 by a guy named Martin Visser that we just never checked in. So yeah, 14 years later, we're finally getting around to it. Let's see. Oh. There we go. One of the things I've tried to do with the new interface is make it more explorable. Give you little hints here. I don't want it to get in your face. The current, the 1.12 UI shows you a lot of error dialogues that you have to do, then go close and things like that. I've tried to make it more subtle and give you more hints in a more, more usable and more quick way. Something that won't interrupt your workflow. But as far as discoverability goes, if you hover over the byte view, you can see. It tells you, these bytes, what are they? What part of the total length of the item? Is that useful? Good. Really quickly jumping over here. Let's go pull up conversations. The conversations window is a little bit different. Instead of having tabs, you have these. You can go and add and remove tabs. Down here, these stick to your profile, which I don't think they did in the old interface. And it looks very similar, but but you have these nice little extra features. You can say copy as CSV or YAML and things like that. What I've tried to do as I've ported the interface over is make it familiar. In order to make the transition easier, but also make it a little bit better and slightly easier to use, and so far it's been working pretty well. You can click on graph and get a TCP graph, which is nice. So let me go back. I don't know. Oh, good, it fit. I wasn't sure the IO-graph was going to fit on the projector, but this is the new IO-graph. Does it look nice? The thing to keep in mind is, this is a lot of the same underlying code as the old IO graph. It's just that we were able to leverage newer libraries, for the presentation and make it easier to use. One of the things I do in a lot of the dialogues in the new user interface is somewhere along the bottom here you'll have a label that provides you a hint, so that when you mouse over something, you know what you're going to get. Like if I click on, if I mouse over this, it says click to select packet 1090. I'm not going to click because I'm scared of what's going to happen. Actually, I'll click. Did we go to 10? We went to 1090. I'm impressed. And you can add and remove packets anytime. You'll notice that there's a graph named I like potatoes, just to show you can name it anything you want. You can also save out as PDF, PNG, BMP, or JPEG, which should cover. Okay. Like I said, I'm not going to go through a whole entire demo of every feature in the new user interface, because every feature in the new user interface is pretty much, there's a corresponding feature in the old interface. Like I said, I wanted to make the transition easier. But just show you that the new user interface should be familiar, and it should be maybe slightly, hopefully better, and slightly, hopefully easier to use, and maybe have a faster workflow. Although one final thing. I showed you what was going on the right, but we didn't look at what was going on the left. So I selected the first packet, and suddenly there's this little bracket line that appears. Those, I don't know what to call the feature. I call it the related packet run. I don't think that's very nice or very marketing friendly, but there you have it. But do you see what's going on here? We got 2 check marks over here. The packet that I clicked on is a due back, and the check marks are showing what packet you're due backing. But it shows you the related packets in the packet list. And you can see, there's a single app. But I think that's about all I had for the interface. As far as the timeline for the release, like I said, I would like to start making an alpha release maybe sometime in the early fall. But I was hoping to get feedback from you guys. I mean, would you rather have something you can get your hands on and test on earlier, and maybe, you wait for 2.01 to come out in order to get all the bugs fixed, which is kind of how a lot of projects tend to release their code, or would you rather wait and have, something that maybe is more, I don't know, more fully cooked? Anybody?
Give it to us now.
Okay.
So what kind of
Well, okay. Something to keep in mind. When I made to 2.0, alpha and final release, that clause isn't going away. You can still have that. Plus, in the Windows installer in the 2.0 release, you'll still have the GTK UI if you have something you really need to use. So we're being actually being very cautious with the rollout. It's just that I'd like to get a feel from you guys how eager you are to get the 2.0 release out versus.
Yeah. Tomorrow?
Okay, how many people have played with the new interface? How many people would download it if I called it 2.0 tomorrow and then put up an installer? Okay, wow. Okay, well that's good feedback. All right, is there anything, yes, in the back?
What about any documentation? I'm kind of a documentation nut.
Okay.
It'd be kind of nice to have something out there with the new release if you're going to deploy it.
Okay, did you hear what he was asking about documentation? And it's kind of partially there, but it's not fully there. What I have done in order to make it easier to update the documentation, I switched from straight up DocBook. If you're not familiar with DocBook, DocBook is an XML standard for technical documentation, which means that if you want to write DocBook, you get to type in XML tags, which is just an awesome thing to do for a full afternoon. I switched that over to something called ASCII-Doc, which is much more lightweight, which means that we can update documentation a lot more easily and more quickly. And as I've updated some of these features, I've gone in, if I know that, let's say, a particular dialog is finalized, I'll take a screenshot, I'll go update that section in the user guide. So the user guide, right now is a patchwork. I mean, there's some updated content and there's some that's not. But it's something I definitely plan on updating. I don't know if that answers your question, but it at least tells you where we are.
Well, how about a weekly report from the developers on any new changes?
Well, we have a Git log. Each development release does have a change log, and those are mailed out when I send out the release note. It does show you, it gives an overview when I do the dev releases of what's changed. A weekly report requires some sort of commitment from somebody to type something up at a specific time. I don't know if that's really cool. Yes?
Yeah, I like the checkbox, or the checkmark thing, but the related thing.
Yes.
If you're going to put something visual, would it be nice to have like an arrow saying this back is going this way, now it's going the other way?
Funny you should ask. Like this? hear $10 later. No, what this is showing is a DNS request and a DNS response. And the dotted line means that, okay, there are more DNS packets down further that use the same port. Actually, the same tuple, I think. Anybody? Oh, yes.
Would you be able to have the 112 and the 2.0 version on, just in case?
You can do that. He's asking if you can have 2.0 and 1.12 on the same machine. Yes, you can install multiple versions of Wireshark on the same machine on Windows, but only, I think, the... Oh, on Mac? Mac is a little bit different. But if you compile it yourself, actually, if you build it with Homebrew and you build the installer, you can drag. The nice thing about the Mac package right now is that it's a standalone app, meaning you can drag the app bundle anywhere you want. But the installer installs it under /applications. So we may need to update the installer just to make it draggable instead of shutting it in a specific location. What you can do is say install 112, drag /application/Wireshark off, and then install 2.0. Yes?
What about little bus using Mac ports?
Mac ports? Yeah. I have no idea. I have no control over what those people do. So I don't mean to sound like a smart aleck, but that's really up to the Mac ports team, how they want to implement it.
So if you're going to use this, you're going to speak to the RPF.
I'm sorry?
What if you have RPF for Windows?
We do have, actually, we have spec files. If you download the source code, you can actually, build an SRTM and an RTM off of that. But you just have to have all the compiler tools and the required libraries installed. And I joke about, doing an installer tomorrow. That's not going to happen tomorrow. After this, I'm off to a place with Black's Fireworks Lodge. So. Yes.
You mentioned the fall as a fall part-time.
Yeah.
Three things about 2.0 do you want to complete prior? So what's holding you up?
Oh, good question. What are some of the showstoppers for me? One is right now we're missing the VoIP playback dialog. I'd like to get that in. Two are just to kind of get it more up and stable and get some more bugs fixed. And one of the things that we got done this week, we got a lot of code we got a lot of code generalized for adding the statistics dialog. We still have a few stats dialogs that are missing, and we need to add those. But the stats and the VoIP calls are the two main things that are missing for me. Plus, in the we have this. Did I just quit? So we have the main window, and we have this display filter bar that you can add display filters into, and you can pull up previous display filters and apply them and do stuff. We have this little icon here that has a star, and I haven't right now. Anytime you type in a display filter, it will add an expression to the toolbar because we already have an expression button that does this in the old interface. But I don't know if that's what I want that star to do yet. But little things like that that I just haven't really committed to either way is what that should do. I think maybe it should act more like a bookmark, the bookmarks stuff in web browsers. So, maybe it'll pop up the display filter editor dialog. I don't know. Anybody else? Yes?
Speaking of the VoIP features, I come from a telecom background, and I downloaded 1.99 yesterday, the day before something.
Yeah.
The driver for changing sort of the SIP dialog that you can display the SIP last days.
Just the main SIP dialog?
So if you were to open up the VoIP calls,
Yeah.
window box, and then click a specific call and then click load,
Yeah.
that box that comes up.
Which behavior, is there it's different than,
The entire thing looks completely different from 1.12. So it's, it used to have a green background and it would show you an arrow going between each of the different IP addresses.
oh no, that's the VoIP flows dialog. That's still there.
It's there, but it looks completely different.
Oh, okay.
And if you put too many calls in it, and I have some bigger tracing people that ton of calls in them, it's completely unusable. I mean, I can't distinguish what's talking to what at all.
Okay, well this is feedback that we need. I mean, this is kind of the reason that I'm doing this session this way. If you have, do you have a capture file you can upload to the bug database?
Yes.
Okay, if you could do that, that would be really helpful in getting this fixed and working correctly. In general, if you could download the 1.99 releases, and if you run across something that is a barrier to you using it, we need to know about that now. Hearing about it a month after we make the 2.0 releases is less useful than hearing about it now. So, yes.
Is it possible to add in the diagrams the rate in throughput instead of just packets per tick, to basically just figure out what that rate is in which these packets are sent to see the microversion?
Yes, you can do an advanced calculation with a sum field, and that'll give you the rate. But that's...
Yeah, like there's like simple formulas for figuring that out, like 10 milliseconds divided by 1,000 milliseconds, 100 times whatever value you see on the graph.
Yeah.
But to be able to have that graph here in Wireshark would be kind of cool.
Well, I mean, like I said, you can do that in the idle graph right now.
Oh, on the rate?
Yeah.
On a per 10 millisecond. Like on a 10 millisecond bucket, for example. And that'll tell me how many packets were cached in at 10 milliseconds, but it won't tell me the rate.
Here, let's, I actually haven't used this in a long time, so...
Like per second, it would tell me that if I want to do 10 millisecond bucket, then it would tell me just what packets were seen within that 10 millisecond, not the rate. The sum for what? So like the sum of length, the packets, the frame, whatever, and then you use the populations. The rate? So it's per millisecond, per tick. And then the next one takes in a second.
Yeah, what I've done here is create a graph with a TCP.length field, and I've done a sum on it, and it's per 1 second, but I can always change that to every 10th of a second or 100th of a second. Does that...
Well, but I understand per second.
Yeah.
Got it, right? 10 megabits per second. But if we change it to 10 milliseconds, now it's going to have a smaller value because it's only counting the number of packets that were seen in that.
Okay, so you'd rather have per second no matter what?
Well, give me a 10 millisecond bucket width, but still, if it was sustained per second rate, what would it look like? Is the question. Then we're able to see the microburst. You can still do that. It's just up to you to multiply that up. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But like for them to do that, to code it, like 10 milliseconds divided by 1,000 milliseconds, that's 100. So whatever it says in that graph times 100 is what I'm kind of asking for.
Okay.
The benefit is that when we make these graphs and send them to a customer or put it in documentation, that it needs to have that number accurate as to what we're representing.
Sure.
So that a non-user, sees that without us having to interpret. I think the idea. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Do the calculation, because it's possible, mathematically possible. So the question is, would it be possible to show that rate, Because it's not sustained for a second, it's only sustained for a fraction, but to be able to see that spike of 500 megabits per second, where you wouldn't see it on a second tick, but only on a 10 millisecond.
Okay, well, it looks like we're almost there, but not quite. So I don't know if, I really don't know if that would make it into 2.0 or, you have a bunch of core developers behind you, so. Yes.
For getting me to actually use it, and this is sort of along the line of back to ask about the documentation on the way different. It's just if I could get a warm fuzzy about like what features should I trust or not, right? And so that way I can know, well, I need to go with the stable for this, whereas this is safe for me to use. I don't want to use it to get information and make decisions that are not correct.
Okay, that's actually a good point.
And then sort of along the lines of what he said, I guess with this, it's just, it looks like kind of the design goal with IO graphs has always been, to help us figure stuff out. But it would be nice if it was something that we, with very few intermediate steps, get it to something that we can present to the non-technical personnel, to management or whatever.
Okay.
Because it's already pretty good for us making decisions, but then to communicate those decisions to other people, I think, would be helpful.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
There was a feature that I used and my colleagues used quite a bit in previous versions, and I don't know exactly where it changed. On the IO graph, it had a gap. You could click in that gap, and it would take you to the packet either below or on the left or right edge of that gap.
Okay.
And it seems like that got lost somewhere.
Yes, it did.
Can we find that again?
I'll have to look at that. We rely on a third-party library for the graph, and I'll have to go look at the documentation and probably the code as well to see if we can do that. That might be something. I need to maybe write that down or something so I don't forget.
That would be awesome.
Gerald?
Yes.
As we're back home and we're trying these new versions, as we get them out there, and we decide, oh, geez, this is missing, or geez, what happened to, or this is look and feel different, or what's the best way to provide you and the team the feedback most directly so that it means something to you?
Two ways. One, if you have a capture file that can trigger a bug, or if you have something that can trigger a bug, we do have a bug tracker, bugs.wireshark.org. We also have a mailing list, wireshark-dev@wireshark.org, that you can send email to suggest things. Usually the bug tracker is the better of the two because we can at least see how long we've been ignoring things. Yes.
Is that also kind of where we should go if something's missing or whatever? But 50 people have already told you that it's missing or whatever. It's probably not a great deal of value in saying it again. So I mean, should we go and look there first? Or?
Yeah. Yes.
Are there commas when you add up the bytes?
Okay, Hansung was asking if there was commas when you add up bytes. This is something near and dear to my heart. I hate it when a computer shows me an 11-digit number. I love having human-readable output because I'm not a computer, I'm a human. So, in various places when we display numbers, I've tried to make sure that it's fed through something that will shrink those down to, no less than, I can handle 4 digits without getting scared. So, something like that.
How about the IO graph? Commas in every 3 digits. It's so hard when you have gigabit or hundreds of megabits. You got how many zeros in it? You got to count with your cursor. Yeah. How many zeros you have there?
I'll have to look at it, but maybe. I'm saying maybe on the IO graph once again because because it's a third-party library.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I said I was missing it. have 20 minutes.
Gerald, one thing tonight. So when Gerald and I go traipsing around the world, our boss Jerry lets us do that. We've been to all over Indonesia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, living the dream. But it always happens. So at the end of the session, people I know what they want to do. They want to take a picture with Gerald. They're kind of shy about it. And so I say, when's the next time you're going to get a picture opportunity? Take a picture. Next thing I know, the entire room. I mean, I think we have another hour after this is over, so if you want a picture with Gerald.
Well, I mean, seriously, this is your chance. You know, we have core developers here, we have me here, we have lots of other people involved with the project here. So if you have a comment or something, if you want to influence the direction of the project, now's an excellent time to do that. This is kind of, like I said, this is one of the reasons I like this format. Yes?
Gerald, what about having a display option on the time columns that would allow you to still show milliseconds, microseconds, but put a dot or period in between milliseconds and microseconds? Just make it easier to read.
Okay, well, I mean, that's just a different formatting option, so see what not. I mean, we already have a ton of different formatting options.
Right,
So
you could just display milliseconds, or you could go.
Yeah.
If I want to keep both milliseconds and microseconds up on the screen.
Well, you can have two columns with different time formats. Oh, there's a question over here.
How about, well, I mean, it's also a t-shirt question too.
Yeah.
So would there be a way to be able to insert additional metadata into maybe the packet comment field when you collect data? For instance, like information about the collector itself. Say, for instance, like for that long, and you guess data. Also T-sharp as well.
I thought we had that already, or at least in Etiquette. Can we add a comment to a capture?
Yeah, for frame comment.
Yeah. Something I'd like to see is in DumpCap being able to send like a hub signal and have it inject a comment into the capture at various points. I think that would be awesome, but I just haven't sat down and written it up. Yes?
Is there a way to graph the duration of TCP screens?
Duration. You
Kind of
can.
like the conversations, you guys have that column?
Yeah.
Be able to-
You can export to CSV now. Yes. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Wireshark's not going to do everything, so we,
Is there opportunity to?
yeah. Back there.
Yeah, this is, it's okay, this is just not a thing that we won't hire. But something that I kind of wanted at times is to be able to, if I can make a custom call that does some kind of math or some kind of formula, maybe even including, the state along in that caption. So like, maybe like, the sort of things you can do in IOGraph,
Okay.
average of, packages over the last 15 frames or 30 seconds or but something that I can get that into the pane itself, in the packet pane.
Did you attend the Lewis session?
Yes, I did. So, I mean, is that okay?
Well, no, I mean, that's probably the shortest path there right now. Just guessing what you're asking for.
So how about X frames before, X frames after? I'm looking for something. Show me what happened just before and just after based on searching for blah.
Is this in the search function, or where?
It's like, I just want to do a quick filter. I think there's something going on, rather than finding the packet, then clearing the filter and seeing what's above it.
Oh, yeah, just right click it. Everything within the
Yeah, then show me everything X before, X after. Is that possible?
That might actually warrant like a display filter operator, like like a fuzz operator or something like that. Possibly. At least that's the way I do it. It would take 6 months.
Less than frame number greater than 20.
Oh, please.
What about like in RTP flows, you know, like you get into the actual stream and break out into conversation or stream and actually like what direction you have packet loss around what the packets and based off the actual values of RTP stream, right? Is there an easy way to get to that within like say the game view here? Like when you do that one conversation or that one call flow?
I don't know at the top of my head. I haven't looked at the RTP dialogues in a while, so.
Is it including a rolling buffer with a trigger?
You're talking about capture.
Yes.
Okay. People have talked about that. I mean, people have talked about. In fact, we have a program. I don't know if we ship it in our installer or not, called TrigCap, which will let you trigger captures. I think on various events. But it just never. Somebody contributed the code initially, and it never kind of progressed from there beyond the initial stage. Yes.
Would it be possible to have an option to choose not to use the total frame length for some statistics and use like the IP length instead of the frame length? And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we have encountered people that submit traces to us that have, when they do a snap link capture, that it throws everything out of whack. Would it be some way to have an alternative way of doing some of those calculations?
We should be using the wire length anyway. If we're not, then that's arguably a bug. So.
Right, but if you get that and it's corrupt, could you have an alternative way to look at it? And I know that's asking a lot, and the only problem is that a lot of times, especially with the captures that are taken through VMware, we get captures that have the packet is captured and it has the same totaling and capture layer that totally throws everything.
We'd have to look. I mean, we use this phrase a lot, but it's for a reason. If you can send us a capture, it would help to see the problem.
No problem.
Yes.
Who's keeping track of all of these requests?
I don't know. We're somebody videotaping up front here, so. Anyone else? Oh, yes.
So what does the squirrels button?
If we pull up, before I show you the squirrels button, before I forget, in the new interface, in the preferences dialog, if you go down here to advanced, this is a feature I stole without any hesitation from Firefox. You get a list of all of the different preferences, and if they're in bold, okay. Squirrels is a bookmark that matches any frame that contains the word squirrels. I have no further explanation for that. What am I saying? I always try to stress this every time we get to talk. Wireshark is a great and wonderful thing, and it's not because of me, it's because of you guys. It's because of the user community, the developer community.
You had me at hello.
Huh? What?
I said you had me at hello.
But like I said,